Hello and welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast dedicated to igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and empowering you to conquer new horizons. In this podcast, we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs on their journey to success through some amazingly insightful and expansive conversations. These episodes thrive on thought-provoking chats where our guests fearlessly explore their path to success, sharing their experiences, failures, and triumphs. No topic is off limits as we deep dive into the talked about and not so talked about pieces it takes to build a business, overcome limiting beliefs, deal with personal struggles, and everything in between that shapes our lives and our businesses. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, creator and founder at The Lotus Effect, where we believe that success is not just about strategies and tactics, it's about cultivating a powerful mindset and creating customized business operations that align with you and your true purpose. Whether it's mastering time management, improving productivity, enhancing leadership skills, or simply fostering a growth-oriented mindset, we'll provide you with the tools and strategies to flourish in both your business and personal life. I'm so excited to have you join us today in this episode, so get ready to feel empowered and inspired as we learn together and from one another on how to rise above challenges, break through limitations, and unlock our full potential. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with us today, and as you're listening to this, Happy New Year, because apparently we'll be in the new year when this episode releases. So would love to know how you guys are doing in your new year. And I'm so excited for my guest, Noemi. So thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
It's my pleasure to be here, Kat. I'm really excited.
I'm so excited. So, Noemi, as we jump in, because I was about to just blurt out some of our conversations and what you've done and all the things, I'll let you introduce yourself. So please tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
So my name is Noemi Beres. I live in Cyprus in Europe, and I run a podcast booking agency. I'm the co-founder of it. It's called Podcast Connections. We help entrepreneurs and business owners to get on quality podcast shows and reach their lives through connections. That's what we've been doing since 2020. And I became an entrepreneur in 2007. I was doing different things in the marketing world, and I really enjoyed that part, but I enjoy even more working in the podcasting world. I'm also an artist, a mixed media collage artist. So this is only a nutshell about me, but yeah.
I love it. And I've had the absolute pleasure of having a chance to chat with you offline, but also having a chance to speak with some amazing people that you have sent to the podcast as well, which has been wonderful. I've only recently had a couple of people reach out, but Noemi does an amazing job at really understanding her people and making the connection. So tell me then, because I know you're an artist, you do some mixed media and stuff. What made you decide to jump into podcasting agency? Like what, where did that come from?
Well, that's a great question, Kat. It has nothing to do with my education or anything like that. By trade, I'm a linguist. I'm a Scandinavian linguist. I speak Danish and Swedish, but ended up in Ireland with my husband, and we started our own online business back in 2007, and that was a travel-related business. Like we worked remotely since 2007. Everything went well. The business was great until the pandemic hit. And because our business was travel related, so from basically one day to another, it just disappeared. And we had to pivot. And and luckily we had a mentor. He was from Ireland, and he advised us to start something in the podcasting world. He had a course, we can call it a course or some kind of program. It was low fee. We jumped on it and just, let's do it. So basically from one day to another, we started our own podcast booking agency. And that was back in March 2020. And that was a very interesting journey with a lot of hard work involved. But I really enjoyed it. We just learned as we went along. And we met so many amazing people across the globe, and I'm just so thankful for that. And this year in 2024, no, sorry, we are in 2025. So last year, we actually reached a six-figure business after 4 years. So that was a big thing for us because, yeah,
Yeah.
it was only 4 years. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
fantastic. Now, what do you feel like since you guys do help people get on the right podcasts that are aligned for them? What has kind of been your motto or your mantra behind the clients that you work with and getting them into the right spaces? Because I mean, you've sent some great people to me, and as many people as I've had pitched to me, you're one of the ones that I actually felt like listened and understood what my podcast was about and then made the connection that way versus what I see a lot of people do that pitch me, which is here's all the fancy things about me. Here is all the things I can talk about. Do you want me on? Right. And so I would just love to know, what is kind of your motto? What is your mantra? What is your background in regards to like how you guys have passionately helped your clients get onto podcasts?
This is, I think, thanks to kind of my go-giver mentality. I'm shout out to Bob Berg and the go-giver community. I'm part of it for almost 3 years. And Bob is my mentor and friend, and he really helped me to understand how important the go-giver mentality in business, how we can serve people, how we can help them to thrive, and we get everything back tenfold from basically from the universe once we do that. I think that's really, really important. And the other thing is that we need to have a great relationship with our clients. For me, it's really important to have a positive vibe, that we really understand each other. We, openly communicate about everything. If there's a problem, we jump on a call, we figure it out together, we brainstorm together. I think this is just so, so important to have a great relationship. And as my business coach told me one day, that if you can sit down with someone and have a cup of coffee, tea, or a lunch, and you can imagine that with your client, even if you haven't met, just virtually, you're good to go. If you can't imagine that, so no, that's a no.
I love that. What an interesting visual. Like that's really neat to be able to, see if you can connect on a different level
Yeah.
because you guys really are not only, touching base with podcasters, making friends and connections with them, but you're also building a relationship with these people that are looking to connect with them, which means if you're good at what you do, that you really are having to pay attention and learn who your client is, who their audience is that they serve, what is the mission that is behind them, and then being able to organically be like, oh my gosh, this would definitely fit you, right? I
Yeah,
feel
you're
like.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really important. It's crucial.
I feel like it is. But I love your approach. So let's say if someone is getting into the podcasting space, right? This is a little newer to them. They've been in business for a little while and they're like, I feel like podcasting could be a thing for me. I feel like it could generate some business or it could connect me with an audience. What would be a couple of tips that you would give to them being new in this space?
Yeah, the first one is do your research. It's always really important. I mean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify are your friends. Even Listen Notes is a great place to start with. So you can just, have a look around and figure out what your business is about when it comes to podcast, what your niche is. And you really have to dig deep into your niche when it comes to podcast to find the right show for you. Because once you're there, I mean, once you have an interview, that will stay online forever. So it's really important to get in touch with those podcasts that align with you and your business and not ending up on podcasts that you are not so happy about. So I think research, the first thing. And, once you have a podcast that you found the right one, you have to reach out to the podcast host. And I know, and we all know that podcast hosts get like hundreds of emails weekly. Everybody wants to be on their show and everybody is unique and telling their stories about themselves, how amazing they are. But you really have to stand out and also show the host that you made your homework, you did your homework. And So tell the host that you listened to a few episodes, what you liked about the podcast. In this way, like you can be a little bit unique, you can stand out, and yeah, the podcast host might consider you to have a pre-call or to jump on an interview with you. I mean, that's really important. So you really have to figure out also your bio, what you're sending to the host, because the bio should include all the important information about yourself, but it doesn't have to be a novel. So you really have to find a sweet spot between not sending like 5 paragraphs and 25 links to the host, because they won't read it and they won't have time to go through all of that. So again, it's like, trying to find that sweet spot, which is all the basic information and interesting information about you, important information about you and your business, and maybe just a video clip or an audio clip, just show how good of a podcast guest you are. And once you're there and once you got accepted on a show, I mean, be respectful, because the show is not for you. You are a guest on the show, and please don't treat it as an advertisement, because it's not. There's a place and time during every conversation when you can share about your business, when you can share about your book, about your coaching program, about anything, but don't treat it as an ad, because it's not. It is a place to share knowledge and to share your story and reach people's life through connections. I mean, that's how you do it. And because it's a brilliant networking opportunity, not just with the host, but also with the audience, because you don't know who listened to it. So it's really important to be open and vulnerable during an interview, and because people align with you so much better when they see the real you. And I think that's one of the most important things when you do an interview. And that's so different from, for example, keynote speaking, because that's a monologue, but a podcast interview is a friendly conversation between two people, maybe from their homes, because everybody's sitting at home or in the offices. So yeah, absolutely. I think these are all important. And of course, be punctual, and try to be engaging, not so stiff or formal when you speak, and speak clearly when you do that, or slowly, don't rush. So don't book interviews tail to tail. That's also a good idea. Because people feel that you kind of getting bored of those interviews. So, and prepare for each and every interview, and just spend a few minutes, maybe a bit of breathing exercise, a bit of meditation before every single interview, to be in that moment and to just be present when you are on a show.
Oh, this is my absolute favorite. Like, I loved everything that you said, and I'm going to 100% agree with it as a podcaster. We're coming back to this end piece though about preparing right before, because you are right. I do feel like I do get pitched by a lot of people, and I have had some that send me like all their accolades and everything that they do and all the things that they talk about. And I'm like, yeah, but how does that relate to my show? Like, how does that relate to my audience? How are you going to give to them what you have? So I love that you said, be unique, because I have had several people that are like, I empower people. I'm like, that's great. What the heck does that mean? Because everybody empowers people. We're all looking to transform. We're all looking to change. We're all looking to uplift. Like, what is unique to you? What do you want to share? And I actually love the idea of having a short clip. I have had a couple of people that have shared that with me, not like a full video. And I was like, all right, I'm kind of feeling them, but not really sure. And I've done that, because you're right. I am not going to read through a 10-page bio. I am not going to read through and look you up on 50 platforms like that. I'm not going to. And to be completely honest, even when I am booking my guests, it is in my form to not give any more than 4 links. No more than 4, because that is just, it's so much to keep up with. It's so much
Yeah,
to put in the show
absolutely.
notes. And to be completely honest, you do not want to be on the other end when somebody is saying, how can people find you? And you've got this gigantic list
Yeah,
of
I
different
know.
places. So you can find me here, and I'm on X, and I'm on Instagram. You can go to my website here, my free read. Like, it's way too much and
Yeah.
overwhelming. And for people that are listening, even if people that are watching, like, most people aren't sitting and like rigidly taking notes on what you were saying. So they're not going to write down your Instagram handle and 15 other platforms that you are on. So find the few that are the most powerful, that have the most information about you, and that's the place that you want to push people. But I have to come back to the very last thing that you said, which was take a few minutes before you jump on with the host, be present, do some meditation. I absolutely love this. I think that it puts you in a different frame of mind, especially if, let's say, this is a day where you've got a couple of podcasts, right? Like, okay, we got to get the energy out from the last one. I got to prepare and be present for the next one and know what this show is about. And I love that you said that, because even as a podcaster, that is something that I do. Before every podcast that I host and every podcast that I am on, I either burn sage or I burn Palo Santos or I get my bergamot out. Like, I do something and I sit with it for at least 5 minutes. That's all it takes, but 5 minutes. And I just ask for the clarity and the conciseness, and for the audience or for the people that are going to hear the things that they are meant to hear. Like, so I set that intention before I hop onto it. And I do think that that really does make a difference in how you are going to come across, how you are going to communicate with the audience or with the host. And then also it can help with nervousness as well, or excitement. If you're I get super excited. And so I have to do this to like calm down, because I'm like, I'm so excited to meet this person. And I know that it's going to come out when I'm speaking because I'm Italian, so I can get it can get
I
really
love it.
fast, really quick. As you can see, that's why my hands are always going. So I love that you mentioned this, because that to me is something that is so simple, and yet not something that I think a lot of people think about right before they hop on it, because they're like, I mean, I'm at home, I'm on a camera, it's fine, it's no big deal. But there is an importance behind settling down and setting that intention so that you are clearly present and focused in the moment, because life happens. And I know
Yes.
I've had things happen literally right before I have hopped on to do an interview. And I'm like, oh my gosh, 2 minutes, just breathe,
Yes.
reset. Like, you have to. It's part of the human experience, I feel like. So thank you for the abundance of sharing, what I know that you're also sharing with your clients before you put them on somebody's show as well.
Yes, I try my best and try to help them, just to become better guests or be more mindful guests and be respectful with the host time and place and space. So yeah, absolutely.
I love this so much. So, as we, I have so many questions, and I'm like, how many rabbit holes do we want to go down? Um, Let me ask you this. For your clientele, for the type of people that you tend to work with, do you work with those that are a little bit newer in the game, or are you looking for those a little bit more seasoned, or are you guys kind of open? Because I know that I've spoken with several different
Mm,
podcast agencies, and they all do things a little different, or they have a little bit more of like a target market. I know I dealt with one that specifically really enjoyed working with authors. That was her
right.
main point
Yeah.
of her podcasting agency. So do you guys kind of have your own niche of people or type that you use, or how does that work?
We used to have a niche when we started in 2020. We started to work solely with female entrepreneurs in the e-com space, and that was in the e-commerce field, and that was very niche. So I mean, and
Yeah.
now we know all the e-commerce podcasts basically in the world that exists, and we are probably in contact with them. And we still have those, clients, but they are not female, not all female. We have male, female, different kinds of clients. And no, they can be just completely newbies when it comes to podcast guesting, and they can be pros. So we work with anyone. I love working with people who are just starting out, because they really accept your advice, and I think it's just brilliant how we can hold their hand at the beginning and help them, even just record a mock interview before the real interview. So, and they
Yeah.
can listen to back, they can watch it back, how they interact, and how they're doing in front of the camera. And I think it's a great opportunity. So I really love working with people who are just starting out. And also it's really interesting because we work in the holistic space, we work in the sales marketing space, so we are everywhere. But I also really like working with people maybe like over 60 and 70, because believe it or not, they are so active and they love doing podcast guesting. And it's just so interesting to see these different generations, how they adapt themselves to interviews and how they align with the interviews, and I just love it. So I think it's absolutely brilliant to work with with the older generation as well.
I
So
love
it's
that.
fun.
Actually, you sent Deb to me, if I'm not mistaken. Deb
Yes,
Creer.
correct. Yeah, she's
Yeah. And
amazing. She
oh my
is
God,
amazing.
she's so amazing. So amazing. So just a little plug for her, you guys, because it's one of Noemi's clients and she's just absolutely adorable.
Yeah,
But
yeah, she is.
her name is Deb. She was on my podcast a little while back. She's actually episode 127 and she's beat three kinds of cancers and now has this whole thing her
Yeah.
what is her site, because I laughed so hard and I was like, I love the name of your site,
Live not to die.
trying not to die dot
Try
live, which I think
to
she
live.
just got
Yeah.
trademarked because I just commented on her and I was so happy for her. But
It's
she
amazing. Yes.
she is so full of life and so much knowledge and she's been through so
Yeah,
much, and for her to see the bright side of everything is it was so enticing, and it
absolutely.
was just I was just like, oh, I could talk for you to you for hours. But I love that you like the newer space as well because, and you said something a minute ago, you said doing a mock interview. I think that is absolutely brilliant because I know that even when I started first sharing my story and like trying to pop on
Yeah.
Facebook and all that stuff and do lives, I would like refuse to rewatch what I had just done, which is really funny because I've been on stage since I was like 10. I love to sing and I've had to re-listen to myself
Mm.
sing and stuff like that, which by the way, for a while I didn't like to listen to either, but that's a whole nother thing. But what was really interesting was the more that I got over the cringiness of hearing my own voice. I don't know why, and I know I'm not the only person out here, so you guys can laugh at me, but I know I'm not the only one. But
No,
once
you're
I got
not. No,
over
you're
that,
not.
it became so much easier to pick up on things. And then what I started seeing myself as was somebody who was speaking to me. So instead of seeing just myself and just criticizing the crap out of myself, I started to recognize myself as someone that could speak to people, as someone that was sharing their story. And then, and this is so funny. So I'm gonna share this. I have done my stories a few times where I don't know. I can't keep up with the ring, okay? It's like 20 seconds and I can't keep up with it every time. And so sometimes when I'm doing my stories, I get caught in the middle of it. And I'll go to leave the next one and I always like make a joke about it or something. When I rewatch my stories now, because now I make sure that I do so that I'm hearing what I'm saying and I'm hearing how I'm saying it, I will laugh at my own jokes. I will laugh at my own jokes. And I'm like, I just said that. Why is that so funny to me? But it's because I have learned how to separate myself a little
Yeah.
bit from seeing myself as just me and criticizing to seeing myself as if I am watching someone to gauge how they are interacting and how could they potentially do better. And that has helped me tremendously. So I love this idea of doing a mock interview and then going back and rewatching it, re-listening to it, paying attention to your wording, paying attention to the way that you use your hands or gestures, like I
Yeah.
do, I'm all over the place. But paying attention to those things because it is really great to recognize that and then be able to kind of learn your own mannerisms and use them to your advantage. So one of the things that I do, so just a tip for anybody out there, is when I am speaking, especially if I am speaking about something I have spoken about several times, while I have the story in my brain already, I have noticed that generally I will use the same hand signals or the same hand
That's
gestures. And
interesting. That's very interesting.
that it is I think that it's a cue to my brain of like where this story is going. And so I know, it's interesting how I feel like those gestures kind of hit those bullet points in the story. And then that's kind of like the next trigger to be like, okay, we're going to talk about this now. Okay, we're going to follow up with this. And it's
Mm.
really funny, but I would have never recognized that had I never went back and watched some of my speeches, watched some of my interviews, paid attention to how I speak when I do my stories. So I think this is so smart. And I honestly think that we should be doing it on a regular basis, even if you are seasoned, even if you think you're pretty good at it, because there's always things that we can catch and recognize, and also be aware of, because I know that sometimes I have to watch my face
Yeah,
when
me
I'm
too.
talking.
Me too. I make very strange faces, and I, especially at the beginning, it's like, oh my gosh, what I was doing there, and like, why am I looking up, or like,
I have done
yeah,
it
it's
so
interesting.
many times. So watch your face, people. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, for you,
please.
watch your face, because I literally went back and watched a couple of interviews that I was doing with some of people on my show, and I've been watching the video clips, and then I realized that in some of the video clips that I am like so intently listening that there is like no expression on my face. And I'm sure that for most people that's not a big deal, but I just found it so funny. And I was like, I should probably like try to crack a smile or make
Or something. Yeah.
me so serious. So I think this is great to remind people at all stages to be aware of things like this, because we all have our own mannerisms,
Yeah,
our own repeatability things that we've done for so long. I don't even think we realize we do it until somebody points it out, or you watch yourself enough times you're like, "Oh no."
absolutely. I agree with you. It's these small things, but they matter a lot when you watch it back. And plus, it's you create evergreen content. So basically, you stay there forever on YouTube or wherever you are, and people watch you. So yeah, it's important to practice. But everyone gets better by practicing it 100 times. You will be a pro.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you said this, that it's evergreen content. That was something that, I didn't necessarily pay attention to in the very beginning, but it's something that I have really, really honed in on recently, and especially over the last like year and a half, is any interview, podcast, or anything, even if you do a live with somebody, that is content for you to be able to use. And I have found it really, really helpful and fun to not only have the recording like we do so that you can see the person above and below,
Yeah,
but I love to take my camera and literally, it's just my phone, you guys. I put it to the side so that it's facing toward me, but you can see that I am speaking somewhere else and you can
hmm
see my microphone. And I will take clips from that and use it as content. And so I use that for different quotes and things, or if I want to do a shout out to the person that I've been on their podcast, and I can do that as soon as we are done with the interview. I don't have to wait for them to send me anything. I
yeah,
don't have to wait for the episode to go live. I can immediately give them a thank you, and I can tell people what their podcast is, where they can find them, and then be aware, when the release date is.
absolutely.
And as a podcaster, I'm just going to say, I really appreciate that. If people would do that, it's great.
Yeah, or even just before the interview, if you're doing lives, like the interview is live on LinkedIn or live on, it can be Instagram or, Facebook. Excuse me. It's an absolutely amazing idea to even just to do like a pre-marketing, like, teaser, a
Yeah.
post on LinkedIn or on Facebook or wherever you are, and just take a picture of yourself. Oh, I'm getting ready for this amazing interview with Kat. I'm so excited. And by the way, check out her podcast and, leave a review and subscribe to it because it's amazing. And that's it. And, that's a big thing and a big push to the podcast host too, because who doesn't like to have an extra review and extra subscriber and just a bit of kindness. It goes a long
Yes.
way.
It really does. And I think that that has been something that, and this is on both sides. So, from a podcaster standpoint, it's very frustrating for me when I do provide graphics and video and then I don't see it. There's no tag, there's
Mhm.
nothing half the time. And no offense to any of my guests that have been on. But I will see people basically take what I have shared and then just reshare it versus
Yeah,
actually doing their own. And I'm like, but you have to understand that you are also promoting yourself. So, from a
Mhm.
podcaster standpoint, it's a little frustrating because you're not willing to do the work, which makes us wonder, like how much did you actually really enjoy the podcast? And I get that people get busy. And I've had people reach out and say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that it's live. I'm not going to get till next week. Cool beans. Totally fine with that.
Yeah.
But on the other side, as a podcastee, those that are being interviewed, you really are missing a chance to elevate yourself, to elevate your own knowledge, and to talk about this great podcast that you were on. And so just resharing their content, I mean, that's great, but it's not going to push to your audiences like it would if you actually shared it. And then you want to put your words into it, right? Because us podcasters, we don't always
Yeah.
get things right. And we just talk about some of the highlights that really caught our attention. But there could be other pieces that you were super excited about. And you want to make sure that you're sharing those. Because ultimately, as people are getting pushed back to this podcaster's platform to listen to your stuff, they're still listening to you. That's still promotion,
Mhm.
that's still advertising for you. So as we're kind of moving into this lane, Noemi, is there anything specifically that you would tell someone who is going on an interview to make sure that they do after the fact?
Yes, of course. There are a few things that I always tell them. First of all, send a thank you note. And even just after the interview, if you can, if you're in the same country, even you can, send a handwritten note because that's even more personal. And there are amazing companies out there. They actually do that service. So you can send out all these thank you notes to all the podcasters you were a guest on, even a small gift. I had a shout out to Dr. Gina Anderson. I got this little gift from her, and she sent it to Cyprus, to Europe, by a courier company after I was on
Oh,
her show, and she was a podcast host, and she sent me a handwritten note and this tiny gift, and it's just so precious, and because she appreciates you so much, so that's pretty amazing. So, but you don't have to do all of that. If you just send them a message or a email just saying thank you, it was amazing to be on your show. I really enjoyed it, and I promise I will share it on all my social media platforms. I can't wait to go live. So that means a lot. And as you said, promoting the episode is a must for the guest, because why not? I mean, you are a guest, you need to share the content. It takes so much time to create content all the time and to create new content. And content is still king. So once you get all that promotional material and links, and even sometimes the host send you like a pre-written description or whatever for your
yeah.
LinkedIn
I've
page
seen them
or
do
for
that.
Instagram. And you can, if you don't have time or you are not really into social media, you can basically copy paste it and you just share it. And because they are so helpful. And also, always remember to tag the host, because it's a win-win situation for everyone. Because once you tag the host on LinkedIn or other social media platforms, their followers will, see that post too. So it's the more the merrier. I think it's just
Mhm.
crucial to tag, to promote everything. And if you have the opportunity to repurpose the content and create audio clips or video clips or quotes or anything that you can use, you can just reuse it in the next couple of months, because people won't remember what you posted 2 days ago on LinkedIn or on
Yeah.
Instagram. So you can easily use them even like once a month, twice a month. You can go back to your old interviews and just repurpose them, all those audiograms and videograms. It's just amazing. And people will just notice like, oh my God, that person just, is on podcast interviews all the time. How do they do that? And it's like, yeah, they're smart. They just reuse the content over and over again, maybe different clips or different quotes from the interview, but it really, really helps to do the job and to,
Mhm.
to to be seen, to be heard, and to build your brand, to build your authority. Because I mean, podcast guesting is a long-term marketing strategy, and that's the whole point. It's not just like looking pretty and talking about very interesting stuff, but it's a marketing strategy. It's a marketing tool to get your business ahead in the game. And podcast marketing is just getting more and more important. So please do share, please do repurpose the content and use it. It's really important. And the last thing I wanted to say about it, that there are many hosts out there now that they do these kind of post-interview calls where you can actually jump on a call, because most of the time when you are on a podcast and on an interview, you don't have time to chat, for 10 or 20 extra minutes. But if you organize or just schedule like a 15-20 minute call with the host and see what kind of collab opportunities you got between two of you, maybe it can be a business opportunity or to be on each other's Facebook private groups or masterclasses or webinars. There are endless opportunities. Because once you are, the interview is, I always tell my client, the interview is just a starting point. It's just an introduction to each other. You talk to each other. And then it really depends on you how you build that relationship with the host, because the work is on you after that. I mean, I can't build that relationship with the host for you. It's on you, but it's an amazing opportunity because podcast guesting, it's about long-term marketing strategy and networking. One of the best networking tools because we learn so much about each other during the conversation, and that's the beauty of it because it's a constant learning curve. You learn as a host and you learn as a guest, so it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of having a call afterwards to kind of reconnect. That's one of the reasons why with my podcasts, and not that anybody knows this, but now you do, I always schedule mine for an hour and 15 minutes so that I have a little bit of time afterwards just to kind of connect and just chat. And you are so right. I can't tell you how many people that I have had on my podcast that I've gotten to know them more and we've had such a great conversation that I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got 4 or 5 more people I want to introduce you to. Are you game to have a conversation with these people? We really are, and I've seen that in the podcast industry over and over and over again. They really are good at giving and giving and giving. And so, like you said, simply sending us a text message or an email saying thank you. I have had some that have sent me gifts for being on the podcast, which is always super cool. And little handwritten notes, but even just a thank you and then properly sharing the content so that we are getting in front of each other's audiences is huge. And leave a review. Please leave a review.
Yes,
Okay. I
that
can't
too.
tell you guys how many times it takes 3 minutes to leave a review. And here's the best part. You can wait and leave a review when your episode goes live and leave a review about the podcaster, how great they were as a host, and how wonderful this episode is specifically, so that people that read through those reviews are drawn then to be like, oh, well, what episode is this?
Yeah.
It's another way to market yourself. It's fantastic. And to be honest, I don't care because you've already talked about how great I am. Now you're just adding into how great the episode was. Boy, feel free because guess what? I got another 5-star review.
That's amazing. And I also heard about it, that it's kind of an industry secret, but if you want to get on somebody's show and I'm not saying desperate, but you are very keen to get on that show, you leave a review to take a snapshot or like a screenshot or whatever of that particular review, because sometimes when you leave a review on Apple Podcast, it takes ages until it will go live, but you can actually do a screenshot. And I've seen that before, people doing that for example, in a LinkedIn post, they just put that as just an image and said, it's like, oh my gosh, I love your podcast. It was amazing. I just left a review. Check it out. So, I mean, it's a bit, kind of a little bit cheesy, but it works. I mean, everybody has, it's an ego booster. So, I mean, everybody loves that.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Apple, as of right now, if anyone outside of the US leaves me a review, I don't know that I can see it.
Okay. That's good to know.
I was talking to somebody not too long ago. Now I'm gonna have to go re-verify this, but I was talking to someone not too long ago, and I'm almost positive that if you are not in the if my podcast is hosted in the United States, but you are like in Europe, I don't actually get to see your review.
Okay.
So I was talking with somebody about that because they were like, I've actually I've been on a podcast in Israel and other places, so I'll actually send them the review that I left so that they know that I did it. And I was like, oh, so now I'm gonna have to go check. So Noemi, now we have homework.
Yes, and then you always learn something. Exactly, because I didn't know about this either.
Yeah, so somebody was just talking to me about this, and then I didn't know that with Spotify, in order for you to leave a review, you actually have to listen to the episode on Spotify. Spotify will not let you leave a review until you've actually listened to an episode. And I was like, oh, because Apple, you can just go on, type it in, love somebody,
yeah, it doesn't matter,
be done with it.
Once you listen to them.
So heads up, in case Spotify is like your space, especially if you're a podcaster, make sure you're telling people if they want to leave a review that they've got to listen to an episode in order for you to
Yeah.
actually be able to leave it. Because, if you get on there and you go to leave it and you're like, I got to listen to it, you get off of it and then you never go back. It's on your to-do
Yeah.
list, but it's like probably 15,
Yeah,
20 items down. And
absolutely.
we
So true.
never make it
And,
that
and
far.
yeah, and then also another tip, if like speaking of Spotify, if you're on Spotify and if you listen to podcasts on Spotify, I like to do it when I'm on the go because it's an app, it's on my phone, so it's so easy to do, and you can actually make a public Spotify playlist with all your podcast interviews included, and they're just so cool that. And you can put them in order. And once, somebody wants to know what kind of podcast were you a guest on, it's like, there you go. This is my Spotify public playlist. You can check it out and see, what kind of podcast I was a guest on. So I think, and you can do the same on YouTube as well. So it's also a great opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. I love that idea. Somebody actually gave me that information from Spotify. And so we have started doing that and created a public playlist for people to see. Because I'm like, that is so cool. Because not everybody's on YouTube, right? So this is a great way for people to be able to hear the audio. Oh my gosh. Okay, Noemi, I could talk to you all day. This is like my space. I love this. And I love that you are on my side. No, just kidding. I love that you help other people get on the right podcast, and also so informational with your people and with the podcasters that you work with to make sure that we're also taken care of as well. I sincerely appreciate that. So as we come to a close, do you have a quote or a piece of advice you'd like to leave the audience with?
For me, I have a quote. It's very short and simple. Just keep going. And that's my motto in life. So whatever you start, because I've seen this before. So many podcast guests told me, or clients told me, okay, I do a few interviews and we'll see what's going to happen. Like after 2 or 3 interviews. Most of the time, nothing, because it's a long-term marketing strategy. So you have to be consistent. You have to be persistent in order to reach your goals, and to do it at least for 6 months or a little bit longer. So just keep going, rinse and repeat, and do those interviews because they work. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So yeah, that's my motto. That's actually, it's not only in business, but in life too, but that's another conversation.
I love that. Well, thank you for that, because that makes a lot of sense. And it's been wonderful speaking to you. So do us all a favor then, tell everybody how they can find you, how they can follow you, how they can connect with you.
Yeah, I have only 2 links that you need to check out. One of them is my website. Our website, it's podcastconnections, plural.co. And that's our website. So you can get in touch with us. And I'm always on LinkedIn. So if you might type my name in, Noemi Beres, you will find me there. There's a tiny microphone sign next to my name. And that's me. So please get in touch with me.
Simple, easy. Of course, we'll have all that information in the show notes. So we'll make it really easy for you to connect with Noemi and potentially use her as your podcasting agency. So again, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Kat. It was an honor to be here.
Yeah, you are so welcome to everybody else that's out there. Oh my gosh, I feel like I just blew some of y'all's minds. I hope that you were paying attention. If not, just go back and re-listen. It's totally fine. Nobody's going to judge you. But understanding just where your market lies, understanding where your audience lies. And I know that podcasting really has become the thing right now. And so it really is, like Noemi said, it really is a long-term marketing strategy. And it doesn't fit everybody. Not everybody likes to talk. Not everybody likes to connect this way. And that is totally fine as well. So remember that you have to find your way to do your business, which works for you, not for everybody else. So until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Catch you later. Hello again, and thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode and it brought tons of value, we ask that you please share, like, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us to reach even more inspiring entrepreneurs who can benefit from these powerful conversations. If you haven't already, be sure to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, as this feedback is an amazing gift that fuels our growth and helps us to continue continually improve this podcast. Looking for an extra dose of inspiration and empowerment? Then be sure to connect with me on social media. You can find me at The Lotus Effect, where I share valuable resources and tips while sharing my own journey of being an entrepreneur. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching programs and services, be sure to check out my website at the-lotus-effect.com. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of Real Chat with Kat. Your presence and support makes all the difference. Remember, whether you find yourself in the depths of the mud or on the path of growth, we all have a unique journey. And just like the lotus, some of us start in the dirtiest of mud, yet as we rise and grow, we blossom into something beautiful, unique, and truly one of a kind. To all of my visionaries out there, keep rising and growing as you create your own Lotus Effect.